All right, February 18th, 2016, Hot Springs, Montana. We're interviewing Betty Magera Andrews. Where were you born, Betty?
Here in Hot Springs.
At the hospital here?
Huh.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm sorry, they didn't have any hospitals.
Okay, no,
We had
that's right.
Dr. Henderlight.
Good. I've been wanting to find out about that.
And that house up above where Glenn Magera lives, if you look up there's a little shack, that's where my parents landed when they came to Hot Springs. So I was born up there on the hill.
And, okay, your mother, I remember you telling me that she came out on the train, was it?
Yeah, well, because, see, my dad, do I start back?
Yeah, oh yeah, where your dad came from, your parents.
My dad was a Moravian, and Moravia was part of Czechoslovakia at that time. And my mother was in Poland. She was born in Poland. And anyway, they met and married, but in the meantime, he wasn't supposed to get married because when they turned 18, they were automatically in the service, and they were not to get married. So they did this kind of secretly. But him and a guy by the name of John Hollich had been wanting to come to America. And so this one German guy said, if you really want to go, he said, you can take care of the animals that we're shipping over. And that's how he got to, he landed in Ellis Island in 1903. And then from there he went to Kansas. He was working in the mines because there was a Moravian colony there. And am I supposed to be looking at him?
It doesn't matter.
And so that's where he went. And he I don't know whether he bought land or whether they give him, I think they give him 80 acres or something. But and of course he was a deserter too. So he was always looking over his shoulder because he said, if they find me, they'll shoot me.
Oh,
he said. But anyway, yeah, then there was 11 of us, but there was Frances was foreign-born. She was born in Hungary, actually. My mother's in Hungary at the time. And then August, Staff, and Joe Fuzzy or Ed Magera were all born in Kansas. And then when they went to Eastern Montana because his wife's or grandma's folks moved to Eastern Montana to Homestead. And so then they moved over there too. So then there was Johnny, Frank, Spuddy, and Marie that were born in Eastern Montana. And then by that time, my dad had tried ranching over there and lost all the cattle to blackleg. And anyway, I think he had one good crop that didn't get hailed out. So he heard about the lumber mill here in Hot Springs, so he came here. Well, then when he sent for Mother, yeah, she brought the kids. She had all the kids with her, and she got off at Perma. And he was working for Herman Marquette, was the guy that was running the mills here. And so, anyway, he brought down the big truck for all the the belongings and stuff that they brought, and it was steel belted. And of course she was carrying me. And I was told that she walked from Perma up to that house. Well, then I came early and I was a little over 2 pounds. And I guess they said I'd never live because I was blue, and they said they could hear me breathing all over the house for air, fighting for air.
But you were breathing.
And I was breathing, and here I am. I don't understand.
Oh, we're glad.
But anyway,
Uh-huh.
yeah, now that's how come they come to Hot Springs.
Oh, that was interesting, yes. So when they were here then, did they raise a big garden? And
Well, when they moved up there, they thought they died and went to heaven. There was a minister and his wife lived there, and they were moving out. That was in October, that they came October 23rd, I think. Yeah. Anyway, they left a garden, and they had plum trees and apple trees.
wow.
And Anne said it was just like heaven, she said. Because in that draw, below that house there, that's where the garden and everything was. So and then from there, they moved out to Lone Pine, back at the reservoir, there, and he ranched up there for a while, but he was closer to his work because he worked at Narada. So, I don't know, I guess that's it.
Well, when they were there, did they raise cattle and?
Well, yeah, they had a few cows, but they had sheep.
Oh, sheep.
They had sheep, yeah. Yeah, they just, but,
And the garden, did they?
oh yeah, they,
Have to plant the trees there?
no, I don't know, I never saw a tree up there, so I don't think they planted trees up there.
Was that where Bud Fritz's used to live? In that
It
area?
was just, Bud Fritz's was just north of that. Yeah, it was the old, what they call the old Sweeney place that they bought and raised hay and had a few cattle, but not very many. Of course, my dad spoke such poor English. I mean, he could speak English, but it was pretty rough stuff. Because they said he could speak about 7 or 8 languages, and he was, when he was in Kansas, he was an interpreter a lot for all the people that were coming. So, but then Mother left. My dad moved here to Hot Springs, where the Demers house used to be here, the old log house. Yeah, we were living there. And of course, she passed away when she was 43.
And she brought all your kids in to town too, then with her?
Well, what was left, yeah. Because most of the kids went to work.
Oh.
It was always, everybody was working from about 9 years on. The boys used to break horses, and Johnny and Fuzzy used to put rodeos on down here too. So, yeah. And actually, Marie and Spuddy was about the only ones I really knew. I really didn't know I mean, they were brothers and sisters, but I was so far behind that, anyhow. And I guess that's it. I don't know.
Well, what happened to your mother? Why did she pass away so
Well,
early?
she had some kind of heart problem.
Oh.
But with 11 kids, I don't know. But she was a devout Catholic. So.
And so then did your dad remarry or?
Oh, heavens. He was so tight, I tell you, that was the tightest mill that every nickel was wonderful, I tell you. He was very frugal, I guess you'd say.
So then I take it that, staff raised you children?
Yeah, well then after my mother died, then staff took me. Yeah, the people that run the creamery up here on the hill there, their name was Rorik, and they wanted to adopt me. And I thought, all I could think of, I was 4 going on 5. All I could think of, boy, I'll have all the ice cream I can eat. Silly kid. But anyway, Staff and Gilbert took me, and then of course they moved out up Mosier Gulch then. And I was raised up there. My playmates were the left-hand kids, all the Indian kids.
Well, sure. Because they lived pretty close there, didn't they?
And of course we lived in Lone Pine District, but it was closer to catch the bus to Hot Springs, so Marie and I both came to Hot Springs School.
So who was your bus driver? Do you remember?
Shuey was his last name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember Grace Welton.
Oh, no, this was long before that, But yeah.
And so, who lived up there? Was it Mary Valley, was it?
Well,
The left-hand children?
when we first moved up there, we moved into Tony Valley's house.
Okay.
The old log house. And he had, let me see, sisters Agatha, Agnes, and Mary, which was Leroy Bennick's mother. Yeah. So I knew his grandparents pretty well.
And I think her name was Mary Valley.
Yeah, there was the Valleys.
Uh-huh.
And then there was Tony and I'm trying to think of the mean one. Boy, there was a mean one. Oh, Moses. Yeah. He's the one they thought that shot Justin Isaac. That was Chief Costada's son.
Oh.
Yeah. But of course they couldn't pin it on him, but they figured that's who shot him. Because they found him up over the hill in Little Thompson country. And I got to see that. My Staff's husband, Gilbert Schreiber, had a cousin lived up there just near their encampment here back of the reservoir. And we'd come there maybe once or twice in a year. And old Chief Custado would always come out and talk to us. And that one day, here was that thing up there that, like they laid the dead Indians on, and all that wailing and stuff was going on. I can remember that. I probably was about 10.
So that was Chief Cotta's son.
Chief Custado's son. Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
and what kind of a fellow was Chief Casada?
He was a very nice man. Very, very nice. And he always stopped us and talked to us. He was very. Those older Indians were very polite.
Oh, yes.
And nice, but boy, some of those younger ones, I don't know.
So, well, getting back then, I guess, to you, being born here in Hot Springs with Dr. Henderlight, did you know him then later when you grew up more?
Well, we lived in town till I was about in the 2nd grade, I think. And then they moved out up in Mosier Gulch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was up there till I was 16. And then just before the war, Staff's husband, Gilbert, he was a Finnish carpenter. In fact, he put the floor in our big gym down here, the old gym. He's the one that put that floor in there. Yeah. So, but anyway, and then when I was 16, of course, I met Steve. First, I went on a blind. I've never been with a boy or anything. I shouldn't be talking about this stuff.
Okay, well, we'll go back to your school then.
Yeah.
You came to you went to school here in Hot Springs.
Yes, I did.
And the 3-room schoolhouse, was it? And the bathrooms were in the basement?
I don't remember the bathrooms at all. No, we had, it was just a small one. Miss Wells she taught the second, third, and fourth, I think. Or maybe, I don't know, no, it wasn't the first. I think there was 3 grades there. Yeah. And I think I'd look at those pictures now. I think
Mrs.
everybody's
Wells
dead.
taught you,
Miss Wells, she was Miss Wells at that time. Very nice, yeah.
So, okay. And then later on, where did you go to high school?
I did my freshman year here, and then of course Staff, well, she left me with my brother Johnny because she went with Gilbert over to Miles City. They were building barracks already before the war over there, and of course he was working over there. So, and then I met Steve up at Camp Tuffet. The Lone Pine School had their picnic up there at the end of the year. And I had gone up there with Frank Sweeney, and I didn't know him either. But my girlfriend, Dorothy Lakin, do you remember the Lakins?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Dorothy was my friend, and she wanted me to go with Frank Sweeney, and I'd never been with the boy. I'd never seen him.
And you had to go on a picnic.
And so I had to go on a picnic, got in the car. He didn't say a word, and I didn't either, all the way up there. To get up there, and he just disappeared. And then over comes this good-looking, blue-eyed, he had the most beautiful blue eyes, Steve did.
Oh, yes.
And he said to me, "Do you play tennis?" Jesus. I never even seen a tennis racket, let alone. Because like I say, being back everything else, we didn't get up too much,
So you were basically shy, if I remember.
Very, very shy. Anyway, we spent the day together, and we started going together. We went together till Staff come and got me in first week in August. And so we had June, July together, and the first week in August she came and got me and took me over there, and I didn't think I was ever going to see him again. And just about 3.5 years later, I was married to him.
But when you were in Miles City then, did you go to high school there?
Yes, I did go to high school. I started my sophomore year, and that was the funny part. Here I would barely get C's. But you didn't have homework. You stood up and you talked. Everything was oral. Mm-hmm. And I'd get up in the front and I'd just freeze. I just couldn't do it. I got over there, and by golly, I made honor roll. And I learned here the old Grolke, all of us kids except Janet Reinerson, she was the youngest of the Reinerson kids here, flunked, not John.
Algebra?
Yeah. So anyway, we all flunked it. Get over Miles City, and she taught us just like ABC for me. You know, just
night and
just
day.
a difference. But then I didn't go to, well, then when we left there, we went to Salt Lake City, and they had to pay tuition for me, and they didn't have money for tuition. So I didn't go to school anymore.
Oh.
And then when we landed in Las Vegas, we was there for a while, and of course I was 17 then. And one day I just pulled out. In Las Vegas, help wanted everywhere. Everything was, I mean, it was wide open. They used to carry their silver dollars and stuff. They'd throw them in those little sacks over their shoulders. You know, everything was wide open. But anyhow, because I didn't get along with Gilbert, and staff had to go home for a while, and I didn't get along, so I just walked out one day, went uptown, scared kid, and I went to it was an 8-sided, I think a Wimpy's they called it. It was a car hop. And so I said that I would like a job, and they said, you got any experience? I said, no, but I said, boy, I'm sure willing to try. So I worked there for about a week, and then they moved me to one of their other restaurants. But the first day I made, well, then I told them, I said, you know, then I don't have a place to stay. And it happened to be two brothers running that. They had several restaurants there. And so they found me a place with this little old lady. I had a little back porch, and I could have my washing and ironing privileges and bathing privileges there. And for $3 a week. I made $13, better than $13 the first day. I thought I died. God, one day, I'd never seen that much money in my life, you know. But anyhow, and then my sister Marie was down in California, and her husband and her split up, so she wanted me to come down there, so I went down there to be with her. And then my brother August was very sick. He was just 37, but they told me I better come home, so I did. I was still in Las Vegas, and I came home, and of course he passed away. And at that time, you know, they were saying, write the boys, so I went over to see your grandma.
She lived right across the way, didn't she, Bill?
Yeah, so anyway, I went over there to see her to get his address, because they say, write the boys, and because I heard he was in the service. I wrote to him for a while, but I didn't think I'd ever see him again. And so she said, but he's engaged. I said, I'm going to write just as a friend. I wrote him a letter. When I got one back, and they censored everything so bad back then, you know, and I wrote him a letter, and I told him, you know, it was kind of fun to be back home again, and we told him about August and everything that's going on. And when I get back a letter, he says, please wait for me. And I've been working, then I had moved down to California to be with my sister. And I was working in a gun factory out of Benicia, California. And I worked several different shifts. We had graveyard, all those different shifts. And one evening, when I was off, they were loading the ship with ammunition and guns and stuff, and it blew up. And we was indoors. Everybody ran outside. We thought the Japs were bombing us. You know, it was the awfulest feeling. It was horrible, but that's what happened. So then I ended up in a malt shop. I was working at a malt shop, and that one day the door opened, and here walked Steve Andrews. He left Funafuti on his 15th or his 23rd birthday, the 15th of November, and he walked in there the 15th of December where I was working. And he said, you're not going to get away this time. So that's how come then we ended up back in Hot Springs.
Oh, yes. So what happened to August? Why did he pass away?
Well, he had pneumonia.
Oh, dear.
But when he was 21, I think, when he first came back here, because he left home when he was 13 from over eastern Montana. And so they didn't know where he was, if he was dead or alive or what. But anyway, what he'd been doing is rodeoing, and he'd get first for bronc riding. And he'd get it $2, and he was saving his money. He came back in a car. He sent oranges. He thought they were still in eastern Montana. He found out they'd moved to Hot Springs. And so he came, he had I don't know if it's a new car, but he had a car. And then of course he met Stella, or Bob Potter's sister. And he married her. And of course he died at 37, but he'd also been bitten by a rattlesnake.
Here.
And he just darn near died when he was in his 20s. And my neighbor Don Safford was telling me he had a cousin. He was talking about him. He said, he lived to be 37, and he said when he was in his 20s, he got bit by a rattlesnake. And I said, for crying out loud, I wonder if there's something about rattlesnakes. It makes you wonder.
Well, they were evidently quite a few out around where you lived out there, right?
Well,
On that road.
up on the hill, you mean, when I was younger?
Well, no, where he got bit, probably.
Oh, no, he got bit down the prairie. He was working down the prairie.
Oh, okay. Okay, they have
But
rabbits.
he was living at Nirada. Yeah. But yeah, he was in his 20s. But Don said, he was telling me that. And I said, for God's sake, I said, my brother died at 37. It sounds kind of good, strange, don't it? Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Steve and I ranched for 33 years.
Well, while you were in California, you went together there. Was he off the
Well, no,
Off the
when
ship
he first
then?
when he first got back, they didn't give him leave until, I think we got to come home on the 27th of December. But he was on patrol every night he was on patrol, because he was in the Air Force.
So they were watching.
For Japs.
But right there,
Yeah,
then.
they were, oh yeah, there was
my.
always patrolling, always. But he did we got to come home on the 27th. And
So when he was overseas, was he on ship all the time?
No, they was on several little islands. He was on Futi Futi. There's 3 different islands, for Pete's sake. See, now I can't even think. But there's 3 different islands. But there was another strange thing that happened. Those islands must have been fairly close together, not too big or something. I don't understand, because one night he was doing patrol, and then they'd holler over to the next whatever island it was and give their name, rank, and everything. And you know what? One night he gave his rank and stuff, and the guy that answered him was Dickie Atkins from up at Lone Pine. And the next night Dickie got it.
He was shot.
The Japs come over every night and farm those kids. And I think Stevie was about 10 years old before Steve could have nightmares. He'd fly out of that bed and you couldn't, nobody could move that fast.
No, it was awful.
Yeah, it was just those poor kids. Yeah, it was a tough road. Yeah, he joined the service after I left. And so then he never did get leave to come home, because they were already in the war after he joined. So.
And I understand that Grandma Andrews didn't care for him going into the service, or?
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Oh,
she just wasn't happy that he was married.
Oh.
I guess I shouldn't say that, but
So,
it's
and you
true.
came-
You know.
You came home right after he got out of the service and landed there in Hot Springs or Lone Pine?
Yeah, we lived in that old shack, where you guys lived.
Yes, I
that old
remember being
blacksmith shack.
there.
Okay, I lived in some pretty tough stuff up on the hill there. I'll tell you that, but that was the first time I ever had a dirt floor for a kitchen.
I could see cracks in the
Well,
walls.
the boards were just put together like this. Well, there was all 2x4s on the inside. So anyway, we went out there, and Kate said, because I think your folks had that rented at that time. Because we rented pasture from them. What he did when he got out of the service, the money he had, he bought cows, red cows, hay, and pasture for the next summer. Just like that, and he spent all his money. Well, thank God the state of Montana was giving the boys $30 a month for a year, you know, for being in the service. That's what saved us, really. Yeah. But anyhow, we had 7 or 8 dead cows.
And about what year was that? I was trying to piece out.
45, I guess.
Was it?
45.
Okay.
Because then we lived there that winter. Well, what we did, we bought deadening, but they called it deadening felt. It was kind of a felty stuff.
Yeah, I remember
Running
deadening
all
felt.
over the two doors.
It was
and stuff,
asbestos is what it
so
was.
the breeze couldn't come through it. And I, like I said, up on the hill there, of course, Marie and I always had to sleep in the bunk shacks because they just had the one big room. And they'd send us out there, but we couldn't have any heat. And that's the one thing, when the first time we got together after the last few years, I said, what was the worst part of growing up? She said, going out to that cold bunk shack in the dead of the winter. And it was, you go out there, and of course we had long handles, but you hit those, staff had what they call feather ticks, and you'd hit those, and it was just like a block of ice. And then pretty soon you'd get warm. But it was always leaving the warm house and going out there, or the main house. Yeah, that was tough stuff. But up there, you know, in that old shack too, there was, because we had Stevie already, and we had a 3/4 bed in that little. The blacksmith shop was where we had the kitchen, and then there's 2 steps up, and he had this place for his bed and a stove, little stove.
Yeah.
And then we had to have Stevie's crib in there. That wasn't too sharp.
And then where did you get to go after you left
Well,
there?
then we borrowed some money from my dad. We bought the Manhan for you right above your mom and dad's place, or your grandpa's place there.
Uh-huh. And so
And-
that, I was wondering when you bought that.
Yeah, we bought that.
And it was a Manningham place?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Les Manahan's place.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason we got it for $1,500. The reason we got it that cheap was because your grandpa had drilled on the other 40 across from there 3 different wells, and everything was dry, and so he didn't figure there was any water. Well, you know what happened? Like 2 silly kids, when we got enough money ahead, we got old Inchy Vander Randy to drill for us. He got down 65 feet and something, and we hit a flowing well. The only one on up there
In that area,
in
I
that
betcha.
area, the only one, because your grandpa and grandma's or his folks' place, I think they were over 300 feet. Everybody in through there was around 300 feet. Yeah, that was kind of. We just like 2 silly kids. We decided where we wanted the well, you know, and that was it.
Mom didn't come up and witch it then for you? Huh?
No,
Because she
I
did a lot
didn't
of
hear
witching
about witching
wells.
then. Yeah, yeah. Almost anybody can witch.
Oh, yeah.
I could do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
I think that's the way Mom did too, yeah. And that's where Randy was born?
Yep, 1950.
So,
But we had water then. We had our water, and before that, you know, everything we had to haul water.
yeah, some.
Yeah, we'd go down to your grandpa's there and haul water up, and didn't have a refrigerator. Didn't have
How about
much.
electricity? There was a big thing about electricity when it came into the valley.
Oh yeah, that was pretty neat. And then a phone, that was pretty
A phone.
nice. Yeah,
And that had to be in the 50s, do you think?
yeah. It was in the 50s. Somewhere's in there. So,
And so then you went into raising cattle
yeah. Yeah, we just
and haying.
and then we decided. We called him Papa LaRue. That had this mercantile here.
Oh, yes.
He went with us because my dad, after a year, decided he wanted his money back. Steve went down to the bank at Plains, and old E.L. Johnson, in his wiggly nose, he didn't have any faith in Lone Pine, you know. And Steve was in the store one day, and Noel, he was talking to Noble, and Noble said, heck, he said, I'll go with you, just like that. He helped quite a few people.
Yeah,
there.
he did.
He really did. And actually, that's what started us. And he says, I'll tell you one thing, young fella, he said, you gotta borrow money to make money.
Oh, yes, he was that kind of
But
a fellow.
6% interest.
Oh,
So that was a struggle. I mean, we just, but then after, we went FHA, and but he didn't like that. He was mad at us because we bought my sister out for $60,000, and we got the cattle and machinery and everything. So then things got a little bit better. Yeah, and it took, I think Stevie was about in high school before we had a bathroom in the house, because we got to build on after we went FHA. And yeah, we used to have an outhouse and ice house. The guys would go up to the reservoir, remember, they'd bring those big blocks of ice down so we'd have ice in the summer, yeah.
And homemade ice cream?
Oh, yes. Yeah, yes.
Lots of homemade ice cream, wasn't it?
Yes. And I'll tell you, we ate a lot of cream and a lot of butter. That's
Yeah,
one
the
thing.
milk cows then.
Yeah, well, there's one thing we always ate good, yeah. And after we went FHA, then we didn't milk cows. Steve didn't milk cows anymore. Because, yeah, he worked out for so many years. So.
He worked for the reclamation.
Yes,
didn't
he did. So, guess who did the ranching?
Yes, you and the boys.
Well, me and the boys weren't that big enough yet. Yeah.
Well, you weren't the only lady.
Well, all the women did. All the women.
All the guys had to work out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I did everything on that ranch but brand, and the only reason that was because we'd have a late calf or something, and he said, "Oh, come on, Betty, you can hold it," you know, and I wouldn't do it. I said, I just couldn't stand the smell of that hide burning, and I didn't know how hard to push or anything, you know. It just, you know, you got to be pretty good at that. You can't just haul off, and really, a lot of them, some of the guys are so rough with them that it just takes them a long time for that brand, you know, some of them all curled right off of there.
They burn
You just
through.
got to be careful. I couldn't do that. I just couldn't. But everything else I did. And then, of course, he told me, oh, I can't say that on the phone. Anyway, I got in trouble. I could plow, disc, and harrow, but I couldn't level. And he made a nice little comment, but I can't tell you what it was. Somebody said, did you tell him off? I said, heck no, just one more job I didn't have to do. Yeah. And I look back, and he'd rent a combine for our grain, you know, he raised grain too. And of course, I run the truck. And then he'd fill it up, and then I'd go to the granary and shovel it all by hand. And by golly, one morning he said, I got to run to Plains. And when he came back, he had me a little elevator. Because he'd have to wait for me. And then I got to thinking later, why didn't he come with me and help me shovel it? I was the dumbest thing that ever walked sometimes. I look back and, yeah, he'd have to wait for me, and that was so stupid. Why didn't he come and help me? But anyway, he got me an elevator. Then when we was doing our timber up on the hill, we had bugs, the bugs got in there. And of course, I always kept my axe, the double-edged axe sharp. But he had, you know, the power saw to take the big limbs, and I'd do the little limbs, but I wasn't keeping up with him. By gosh, another time he went to Plains to come back with me a little power saw. That was pretty nice, I'll tell you. But I look back and I think, we did everything so hard, everything in a goofy way, just absolutely.
But it still was an improvement of.
No matter, oh yeah, you get there, but what I mean is, gosh, I look back, we could have done things a lot different. But that's married a dumb old.
And did you sell the timber then, as you tore it off, or?
No, we cut it for wood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, we. So, yeah.
And I think Steve was on the school board at one
Oh,
point.
yes. Gosh, I remember some of the people didn't talk to us for a long time because we moved the school from from Lone Pine to Hot Springs. Boy, that wasn't very good. But remember, she was running the school bus, and remember they had to leave the kids. There was one bunch of kids that had to leave there because she had to go deliver so many this way or down this way, and then she'd take the others up towards Nirada.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, they were there at the school grounds and they were getting in trouble, like running over the store and stealing and doing stuff. And then we had trouble getting teachers. The one teacher they got, her paycheck, she was gone. They had that one teacher that he took the 8th grade room because there wasn't enough kids to use everything. And what he did is made himself a Chinese. I mean, everything was Chinese with him. And then he was taking like all their records and stuff, their player records. He was throwing them out the window, sailing them out the window. And then Mrs. Johnson, they had her for a year. She took all of their records and burned them.
Yeah, I've heard that.
She
yeah.
took all Lone Pine records and burned them.
Alan McCoy was saying that.
Oh, yes.
Lone Pine was upset
That's
for
right.
that a long time.
But anyway, so then they decided, it'd be better if we'd send the kids to Hot Springs, which was very good. Then things went very much nicer. Yeah, that's for sure. But, yeah, it took some of those people a few years before they'd talk to us because Steve was on the school board and he said, well, no, I better not tell that.
Yeah, we don't want to have
Controversy.
stuff we have to edit.
Yes, you'd have to edit this. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that to Alan. It was concerning his dad, what he did to Stevie, but I wouldn't,
Oh, well.
I wouldn't do that.
So did Stevie and Randy then have to catch the bus?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did they have to walk up to the mailbox?
Just up to the main road there. Yeah, that's as far as they had.
And
to
did you
walk.
still have that big box for the mailbox?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
everybody's mail for
Yeah.
the whole area went into?
All wide open just for everybody.
And everybody knew who was getting what mail?
That's right. They probably went through everything, everybody. That's the way it was.
Because Fox's lived on the corner and Hillman's.
Yeah, and Hillman's.
Did Hillman still have the bees? You remember?
I didn't know the Hillmans too well.
Oh.
No.
Steve must have went to school with some of the boys.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember Morrison,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Steve went to
they
school.
got in trouble because they were upstairs and they sneaked out the upstairs window.
Well, who was driving bus when you kids went to school?
Well, when we went down to the crossroads and caught with Grace Welton
Oh, I see.
when we went.
Oh,
But I
see.
can't remember now who drove the big bus that we finally got to catch the big bus. It came up and around Lone Pine and then down.
Because Steve's dad drove horse and buggy there
Yeah,
for a while.
that was way before, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he got an old truck or something.
Yeah,
I
he
think.
did.
I can't remember, somebody was telling us that the floorboards, they sat in there and the floor, they could see the road through the floorboards.
I don't doubt that. But Steve used to ride most of the time. He loved to ride horseback, and he'd get on that old pet gal. And yeah, he broke several horses, Yeah.
And do you remember their names?
Pet's the last one.
Oh.
But that was, yeah. And then he had a brother to her, and when he left the service, he was starting to break him. And of course, he didn't get him broken. And when he got back, that's the first thing he did. He was going to work with him. Well, he'd get on him, and every time he'd get on that horse, he'd go over backwards with him. And I said, "Good God, why are you doing that? He's going to kill you." So during the winter, we didn't have a electric. He wanted to fix electric fence, but he fixed it with a light bulb. It was dead direct.
And that got the horse.
Thank you, Lord, that horse got it. But it could have killed some of the cattle too. See, we did the dumbest things. Oh my gosh. But I said, thank you, Lord, because every time he just couldn't, he'd just always go over backwards. But boy, that was bad. So,
But that's how they did things in that day. They just direct wired stuff. They didn't have to call an electrician. And
I know. That's what I say.
Yeah.
But he didn't want, them getting into his haystack there. But the old horse got it. So, like I said, oh, thank you, Lord. My goodness. Yeah.
so, well, Randy and Stevie must have come to Hot Springs to school, and they rode
Yes.
the bus.
Yep.
And so were they active in sports? And you and Steve get to go to a lot of ball games? And
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Stevie was, of course, Stevie had spent 1 year down here before the Lone Pine School, and then he went back and Marlene Cedarstrom, I think it was, and Jerry Sutton and Stevie all graduated by the 8th grade up there. And then he come back to Hot Springs, of course, for high school. Yeah. But, yeah, Stevie was very active, and then even when he went to college, he played basketball. I love
Okay.
basketball.
Oh, okay.
And he was pretty good in track, too. Yeah.
And what did he study in college? What?
I think he was going to be a teacher. So I really don't know, because I'll tell you what, he'd been working summers. Back then he could work for the Forest Service. By the time Randy got ready for Forest Service, mostly the Indian kids were getting those jobs. But yeah, he and then of course him and Donna got married, because they went together from sophomores on in high school.
Did she go out to college too? Did they?
Yeah, she went to Kinman, that
Oh,
Kinman
okay.
deal over in Spokane, yeah.
And when did Randy take up playing the band in the band?
Oh, goodness.
Really young, wasn't he?
Yeah,
freshman?
from his freshman on, yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, they even played up in Canada,
Did they?
Yeah, those kids had the home brew, is what they were.
Uh-huh. Is he still, well, he's losing all his band members, aren't you? They're
Oh, yeah.
passing away, but
Yes.
they played for a lot of years.
Yeah, Jimmy Hewancorn actually was the most talented. He could play anything, and he could sing. We kept him for a year. And somehow somebody from Missoula did something with, the guy that played on Hee Haw. Anyway, they wanted to get a hold of Jimmy and let him come to their, wherever they were playing or something. He's a famous guy, I can't think of his name. And so then, of course, we was going to have to pay for the plane ticket. So I went over to the Indian department there to see if they would help us, with getting him there and back. And they said they couldn't do that. So he didn't want to go anyway. He said they play notes I don't even know. But Jimmy was excellent. He's had such a beautiful voice, and he could play anything, just anything. He was really a neat kid, but he ended up just drinking himself to death, is what he did. Yeah, he worked in Las Vegas with some of those pretty famous guys too.
Wow.
Yeah, he was, but then, like I say, drinking just got him.
Well, and then we heard from the Rusma boys, and Steve built a pond out by your house.
We had a pond. See, that was our way to, before we had electricity and stuff, that was before we had that for water for the winter.
Oh.
So, I had to chop ice all the time for the cows to drink and stuff. Yeah, that was before we had electricity or anything.
Well, it seems like the Rusma kids skated there, and I think Jerry Sutton said he skated there.
Oh yeah, the
whole row
well,
line?
after my kids got in high school, their yard was full of boys all the time. And I'll tell you, those ruse my kids.
Oh, well, we better not.
They were a lot of fun, but I mean, boy, they were devilish. My kids weren't far behind by a long shot. I don't think Randy was. But anyway, yeah, they had a lot of fun. But Dirk was the only one that'd come and be playing, and he'd come in the house. He'd always visit with me. And then they, of course, I always had a lot of fried chicken. And they'd come in the house, go through my front room, come down into the kitchen, and open the refrigerator and get some. Usually I had fried chicken. I always had a lot of fried chicken. And yeah, that's the first thing Dirk said to me when he got back. He said, "When I think of you," he said, "I always think of fried chicken." But he's been awfully good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so wonderful kid.
So you raised chickens, I think, too.
Oh, yeah, raised chickens, turkeys, geese. Yeah, one year we decided we was gonna take our geese into Missoula and sell them. So we even set an incubator. This is when we had electricity. And we had of course we had the old root cellar. And we put it down there and just kept that thing just perfect. And because we tried it out in the granary and it was too warm, we put it down there and it worked. And all eggs hatched but one, which we had 30 eggs in there. And then we had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, we had 6 hens. So when we got ready to kill them, of course all our friends or neighbors came in. Lots of black velvet going on there.
Yeah.
And Steve he'd go out and just chop their head off, because then what we did is put them in. We put detergent. If you put detergent in your water, it makes those feathers just fall instead of they used to stick them. Yeah. But anyhow, it took us 2 days to get all those done. Got them ready, took them to Missoula, and I think we got $2 a piece. Then I said, no more of that. And Shirley stayed in the house and cooked while all the rest of us was out there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But then another year, the guy over in Ronan talked Steve into raising registered Kenland clover. And there was probably about 10, 12 acres in there. And of course, it had to be weeded and everything. Well, who do you suppose did the weed? Because Steve was working out, gee whiz. And so we'd irrigate a little bit, and then it was wild oats and burdock that we had to get out of there. Mm-hmm. And that was the two things. It took me 3 weeks to get that all done. I had to have the threshers for about 2 weeks, and they couldn't come till about 11 o'clock, which meant dinner and supper. And then they'd thrash. It took probably about 2 weeks of feeding those guys. And we were supposed to get 75 cents a pound. We go over there and we end up with 37. Then he tried to talk me into doing alfalfa up on the old Gunther place. He has some beautiful alfalfa there, and he said, "You want me to do the seed?" And I said, "Nothing doing." I said, "That's enough of that stuff." Yeah. Holy cow. And then back then your hired helpers, nothing, because everybody all worked together. Everybody, I'll come and help you and you come and help me, and that's the way that was.
Yes.
But still, they like to eat, and of course I like to feed them. There's no getting around about that. But yeah, it was it was tough stuff, but it was one wonderful life. Actually, everything was pretty simple back then, really.
And then after you retired and you moved to Hot Springs.
I wanted to move up to Lone Pine, and Steve said, "No, we're going to move to Hot Springs." He liked the center here, the
senior center.
Yeah, the senior center. So, well, we could go down, play pool, do all that stuff, So.
And dance.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You guys had a band there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of fun there actually. I didn't like it at first. I wasn't used to a lot of people, but We had a lot of friends out to Lone Pine, but what I mean is down here, everybody was new to me. And I wasn't exactly too crazy about it. But
Yeah, when
we
you were on
played
the
cards.
ranch, people came and played cards a lot.
Oh, yeah.
didn't you?
We
You
used
always
to,
had cards.
what we'd do is
Shirley
that we'd have
Franklin.
supper, whoever's house was going to, mine or whoever's, we'd fix supper, and then we'd play cards till about 10, then we'd go dancing till about 3 or 4 in the morning. Then we'd end up somebody's house for breakfast. Then we come home by 7 o'clock. I can remember that. We did that a lot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And did you dance at Lone Pine?
Oh, yeah. We danced at Lone Pine, Nirada, Camasbury, Garson Gulch. Oh, yeah.
Well, those were still good old days.
Yeah, they were.
Of course, a lot of black velvet.
Oh, a lot of black velvet, yeah.
My dad called it shaving the horse.
Your dad was something else. He was the darndest guy when they were out there at the Y,
Oh,
and he was pumping gas into somebody. He said to somebody, "You want to see my Texas mouse?" And what it was guinea pig, wasn't it?
yeah, hamsters, I think.
Hamsters. So then, about a year or so later, somebody come through and said, "We want to see that huge mouse." He told him it was a mouse. Oh, her dad was always
They
full of
never
it.
knew what he was going to say.
Yeah, that's
did they?
right. Oh, I tell you, he was something else. But there was a lot of good people back then.
Yeah, there was.
Everybody helped everybody. Just otherwise you didn't make it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we lived the best times.
I think so.
Yes, this whole world was getting pretty sad looking.
So, well, I guess we've kind of got most of your history.
Oh, there's a few other things I could tell you, but I'm not going to.
Well, we could turn the camera off.
Oh, God. Yeah. But doing this kind of brings back a lot of memories, too, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But I didn't like moving to Hot Springs, but I said if we moved to Hot Springs, we were going to move on a hill. That's how come we ended up there, because I was raised on a hill.
We're not too far away.
Yeah. And so I got my way there, but I did want to move to Lone Pine at first, because, we still had a lot. Everybody's gone that we chased around with.
Oh, yes.
Everybody.
You did take some trips, if I remember right, didn't you?
Yeah,
we see Steve's relatives in Nebraska. Or?
Yeah, we did that. Yeah, we went Frank Shirley, and that was enjoyable. Yeah, I got to see how the other side lived there. And then we went to Hawaii twice, and we went to Alaska once. And then we got to, after our grandkids were in high school, in college, we went to several of the deals, for Chris. And of course, by the time Laura got in there, and Tommy too, of course, Chris was in Portland and Tommy was over at Bozeman. And he went to college, and he became a fisherman.
Yeah. In Alaska.
Yeah, in Alaska, of all places. Yeah, it was kind of funny. I don't really know what Tommy was taking, but anyhow, he went to college 2 years down there, and these people, friends of Steve and Donna's from Kalispell, he was teaching up in Alaska, and they come over to Steve and Donna's for Christmas or something, and they got to talking about they needed teachers up there and stuff, and then he said, well, do you like to fish? And Tommy said, sure, and that's how come he got to go to Alaska. Yeah, and you can't get him out of that. They tried to get him to teach, and he wouldn't do it. He just, fisherman, that's what he'll always be.
That's what he's done all these years.
Yeah, that's what he's done all these years. He's a pretty good little carpenter, too. And they tried to get him to maybe do that. He comes back once in a while for a month or so, but other than that, no, he'll never leave Alaska. He's a Pelican, and like Pete said, Cousin Pete, he said, God, he went up there and he said, the guy's got to be crazy to live up here, because the only way you can get in and out is boat or airplane, And it's pretty tough. But he loves it. It's just the way of life. It's a lot different.
Well, your Stevie liked ranching and farming too, didn't
Oh, yeah,
he?
he
And then
did.
he had to give it up.
Yeah, Well, asthma.
Asthma, yeah.
Actually, and then, but he still rides with Mike King, or of course he didn't this past year because Donna was sick. But yeah, he rides every year with the guys that take the cattle up over there. Yeah, he likes that. He helps brand and all that stuff too, yeah.
He comes down and helps them.
Yeah, he's,
Well, then I understand Steve built your house, didn't he?
yeah.
And he did a lot of carpentry work after he retired around town, and
Yeah, he did a lot of, he was, doing a lot of work, But actually, no, our house, you mean the one on the hill there?
Yeah.
No, Olson from Polson built that. Everybody thinks it's a double wide, because what happened was, the deal we made with this guy, he wanted us to stay till October, but the June 6th was the date that he could take possession. So on June 6th, you know what he did? He walked in the house and he said to us, "As of today, everything on this place is mine." We didn't have a realtor. We had a lawyer friend that did ours. And he said, "Get your buns off of there." Our neighbors and friends come in. We lived there 33 years and they moved us in 3 days. We did have the shop done, but we was gonna, Steve was talking about building a house. But we went over to Olson and he said, "Well, we can build it over." What they did is they built it over there, half and half. They brought it in like a double wide, but it's a stick-built house. But that was sure. Well, that guy wanted us to stay till October to get all the fence and everything to help him, and we said we would. Dumb old people. And then he did that to us. So our lawyer said, "Good thing we had a lawyer."
Yeah.
I tell you, he would have worked us over. But dumb farmers. I tell you, I just.
so
But I like Hot Springs. At first, I was used to being out at the ranch, not near too many people, but I like it. I like it. Yes.
So, did you know our Aunt Betty, Steve's sister,
Oh,
very
yeah.
much?
Yeah. Oh,
Did she
yes.
make it out to the ranch a lot, or?
Oh yeah, her and Eve used to come out and they'd bring Garrisons with them, Wayne and Eileen Garrison. They did that a lot.
Play cards?
No, mostly just visited and hunted. They liked, of course, they liked
And it was pheasant hunting.
pheasant hunting, yeah. Yeah, so, but, yeah.
And so now you're keeping yourself busy up on the hill. You bake cookies.
I still bake, but it's a chore.
Oh.
I get up in the morning and I think, well, I'm going to do this or do that today. The old body says, your mind says one thing, the body says no. Just like that. That's the way it is.
So,
And it's very discouraging. I don't like it.
So,
I don't like it. But of course it beats what comes next, so I better shut up. I got about 2 more weeks and I'll be 92.
your birthday's coming up.
Yeah, so I don't know why I'm still here, to be truthful.
Well, I guess we've talked long enough. We're getting sad.
Yeah, you can take out, but I could have told you some good stuff, but I don't know if you'd take, you probably wouldn't even.